Good day, folks. Today I want to talk about cover crops. Should we put them in? Should we plant? Should we just not let the natural seed bank take off? Because you don't have to use covers in your ground if you got a good system. We are planning on using covers here on our place, just annuals, to shock the system, to get stuff growing, to shock it. You know, probably a mixture of some annual rye, cereal rye. Cereal rye, probably not right away, but annual rye to start with oats and, diverse mix. I don't ever want to plant just one thing in the field. I want it diverse. Because out here, the place was planted into CRP when I was really little. So there's not much out here. Brome grass, alfalfa that blew in and just started growing in the fields once we started haying it, shockingly enough. And yeah, that's about it. Thistles, no, but we're gonna definitely be putting in some other stuff to start with. Now, before I got on this regenerative journey, I listened to a few farmers. They said my ground was played out, that there was nothing. I wasn't getting a very good crop because there's no nutrients in the ground for the grass to grow. The grass was wore out, and the alfalfa was wore out. So then you plow up the ground, because that's what people tell you to do and how you got to do it, unless you spray it all down, which we didn't want chemicals out here. So we plowed up a few fields out back. And I'll show those this spring when there's no snow cover. I'm getting anxious. I want to talk about it because I'm getting tired of winter. But once the snow's gone, I'll be able to go out and I'll be able to talk more in depth of what I mean by the carbon mat. There's some coulees out back that hasn't had no grazing on it except for some wildlife that just meanders through for 20 some years, and it doesn't grow anything at all. It's doing nothing for the ground, nothing for the soil. Typical program you enlist in, and they tell you it'll do good things and it doesn't do nothing. But I digress. So annuals, we are going to focus on annuals out here for our covers for a while, like I say, because I want to shock the system. I want to build up the productivity. Even on some of the select fields I have to hay, I'd really like to be able to hit those with a spring annual, get some more organic matter growing and up, and then you can hay that or lay it down, make a nice mat, and graze it. Any and all of that. But we definitely want to make a good impact. When a ground's been so stagnant for so long, it's something that you're probably going to have to do. You're going to have to shock it some way or another. If you listen to some really good soil biologists like Nicole Masters, she's awesome. She's one of the first people we went to and seen in person when it came to the soil health. It's pretty cool. She actually lives in Montana, which I didn't know. I first heard about her on a podcast, and with that New Zealand accent, I was definitely not expecting her to say, "Oh, I live, 200 miles away from my location." So she's one of the first people we went and seen, and she agrees you got to shock the system. One way or another, you have to shock it. Now, back, it was all fields. There's no fencing. So when I get my fencing in and I can graze it, that's one form of shocking the system. Having those animals graze in a tight group and to graze it, that's one version of shocking the system. And there's seed in the natural seed bank. There's seed down there that people will think there extinct. Excuse me. They'll say it's extinct and it won't ever grow. It will. You get the conditions in the soil right, and people, from watching hours and hours of conferences with lots of big names and lots of big people talking about it, it's all there. The grass is there. You got Alejandro Carrillo is down in Chihuahua, Mexico. Now they get 6 inches of rain. 6 inches of rain. I think it was like supposedly every year, but I think it averaged out to more like every 18 months. What he can do, what he's done on his place, if you go look him up, you'll be able to see some cool stuff where it's literally a fence line from his neighbor's place to his. The grass, you can't see the grass. It's a desert. On his side, the fence line is now grass that's 4 feet tall, green, lush. He didn't plant no seeds. Not one. So the grass is there. It is. And eventually, we won't be planting no covers. Most likely. I don't know. I like the idea of being diverse, and I kind of like the idea of continually planting different things to help build the soil up and get it going. So, to start with, we're going to do annuals. We're just getting out of a drought, 3-year drought. We started the first cover crop we tried to put in. We had too many pre-annuals in there. The ground just wasn't ready to accept. The conditions were not right for those seeds to try to grow. And I got them a little deep and no moisture. But from here on, we're going to be planting summer annuals and trying to get it shock the ground so it'll start firing on all cylinders and be good. So, should you cover crop? Should you not? That's up to you and your own preferences and in your places. You know, I know it'll work. Do you need to cover crop? Nope, you sure don't. Will it possibly help speed things up or make things a little easier on you? Yes, because, you know, if you go out there and you plant your annual rye and you get a big old stand of it, you know, that's winter feed. If you do it right, your cover crop can be your winter feed. So instead of having an $8,000 feed bill for the hay, you put in $4,000 for seed, and you grow all these cover crops and all the stuff the sheep will like, and the diversity. The meat's gonna taste better. I mean, a person, think about it. You know, if you eat one thing all the time, there's gonna be stuff in that one thing you're not gonna get. You know, some minerals or nutrients. That's why you need to be diverse. That's why humans are diverse. So yeah, no, we're gonna be doing annual cover crops. I think they're beneficial, for sure. It's not something that's needed to be done to make a regenerative place work. Unless you're kind of so far down the line like we are, that you need to get something growing to help. You need to get something growing so there's enough to be able to lay down and make a mat to get the biology and the organic matter growing. So, I think that'll do it for me tonight, folks. Just ran up here, fed the sheep. Wanted them to kind of clean up a little bit of their bedding they've had now that it warmed up. We're not going to get that. We're getting out of that cold snap, so they're happy. They got their water. All is good in central Montana. So, folks, if you don't go try to do your research on regenerative places. There's a lot of new YouTube channels coming up, myself included, and a lot of guys that know a lot of information. I know, I've asked help from the Burkle Farm YouTube channel. He's good. He's, talked to me on the phone. Good. It's always good to be able to ask questions and what can a person do better? What can they do a little bit different? You got George Heller. Those two guys are both in Minnesota doing good. And this regen thing is a community, and that's what it needs to be built up as. It's quite funny. You can have a neighbor say that won't work and that style and management won't work on my place, and yet it works everywhere. Do you have to tweak it a little bit to get it to work on your place? Yes, you do. But will it work on your place? It absolutely will. So, you guys have a good night.